Okay, welcome to our presentation about the case study of Wirecard scandal. So my name is Janne and today I'm here with Vincent and David. On the next slide, we will see the agenda of today. So we will first talk about the company profile, then we will talk about the Wirecard failure, then we will give a timeline of the total financial fraud they committed, and lastly, we will give some information about the event study that we conducted. So we first start with the company profile. So Wirecard is a German company out from Germany, and it was established in 1999. It is a provider of electronic payment solutions, and in the graph on the presentation, you can see their core business. So they offer payment processing services, risk management, and other value-added services. And their business model consisted of transaction-based fees for using their payment processing services. On the next slide, we will see that Wirecard grew to a very large worldwide company, and they had their presence in America, Europe, Africa, and Asia Pacific. And they also had partnerships with very large companies such as Mastercard and Visa. Then on the next slide, we will talk a little bit about the board structure of Wirecard. So Wirecard had a two-tier board system, which is actually very common in Germany. This means that there is a management board and a supervisory board. On the management board are the executive directors, and on the supervisory board are the non-executive directors, who have basically as a duty to monitor the management board. So the management board of Wirecard consists of 4 members. Margaret Brown was the CEO. Then you had Alexander van Knoop, who was the CFO. Then you had Sean Marsalek, who was the COO, and Susanne Stelt, who was the CPO. And the supervisory board of Wirecard consists of 6 members, and they monitored the Wirecard. So this was a short summary about the company Wirecard. And Vincent, I gave to you.
Okay, thank you, Janne. Now I'd like to point out how Wirecard failed and subsequently how the fraud was uncovered. The Financial Times reported on numerous occasions about suspicious activities concerning Wirecard and early on warned investors that the Wirecard stock might be heavily overvalued and that it is not clear whether public information released by Wirecard was credible. Olaf Storbeck from the Financial Times described the case of Wirecard with the words persistent mismanagement this year. To better understand why he chose those words, let's have a look at the operational behavior of the executive management of Wirecard. The failure can mainly be attributed to unethical, unprofessional, and predatory behavior of the executive management. Whether it was in the form of stock manipulation by intentionally releasing inaccurate or wrong information about the business, lack of information at the high executive level, for example, from Knoop, the CFO, was not in the picture how big clients or flagship clients were generating losses for Wirecard. Several clients also reported that the technology and customer service of Wirecard were exceptionally bad in some cases. And third, Marcus Brown, the CEO, allegedly tampered with law enforcement and journalists in the UK to shut down short sellers and whistleblowers. In other several cases, similar behavior was reported. This tactic seemed to be some sort of intimidation to not let out information that could lead to value destruction of the Wirecard stock. And the incentives were clear. The executive management held many shares and they were trying to boost their investment. In the end, it was largely due to Dan McCrum of the Financial Times and Pav Gill, a whistleblower formerly employed as in-house counsel for the Asia Pacific region of Wirecard, that uncovered the unethical and criminal behavior of the executive management and also the accounting manipulation that eventually led to the investigations by the German government and authorities. And finally, the denial of attestation of the financial statements of the fiscal year 2019 by EY, which were Wirecard's external auditor. At this point of the fraud case, it was clear that Wirecard had cooked its books and that they have been fabricating revenues, forging accounts, and likely were involved in money laundering activities. After the investigation had started, Marcus Brown, the CEO, was arrested. Jan Marsalek, on the other hand, seen in these pictures here, the recent COO, fled the country and until this day remains fugitive and also was declared most wanted by Interpol. And now to you, David.
Thank you, Vincent. All right, now we will have a look at the timeline of the major events that ultimately led up to Wirecard's, the discovery of Wirecard's fraud. So first, it all started in January 30th, 2019, when the Financial Times published its first story about Wirecard, which was about the Singapore investigation. Then merely more than 1 week after, the offices of Wirecard in Singapore were actually raided. And then the next event was February 18th, when the German regulator, the BaFin, banned shorting the Wirecard stock for 2 months. Then next, we go to March 11th, where Wirecard court appealed was denied by the Singaporean court. And now the next event is big jump in time. We now go to the 28th of April in 2020, where KPMG could not verify that the profits from 2016 to 2018 were genuine. Subsequently, on June 5th, the same year, the police searched Wirecard's main offices because there was a criminal investigation put in place concerning the CEO and 3 other executive board members. Then next, on June 16, 2020, Philippine banks informed EY that documents that were supposedly detailing 1.9 billion euros in balances were actually spurious. And then afterwards, EY refused to sign off Wirecard's account. Then it starts unraveling quite fast, and day afterwards, the CEO resigns. And only 3 days afterwards, Wirecard actually acknowledges the scale or the potential scale of the financial misconduct and warns the investors that the 1.9 billion euros might actually be gone. Then a day afterwards, the CEO is actually arrested on suspicion of false accounting and market manipulation. Then the last event on June 25th, 2020, was the filing for insolvency of the board of Wirecard. Now you see the orange events marked here, we used for our event study, which we come to now. So so on the next slide, we can see again the 3 dates we used as events. So the first one was when the Financial Times published the story. The second one was when KPMG couldn't verify that the profits were genuine. And June 5th is that the police raided the offices because of a criminal investigation. And on the next slide, we can see the graph that plots actually the returns against the volume, the trading volume of the stock of Wirecard. And we denoted the events by 1, 2, and 3. And event number 4 is just June 25th, where Wirecard actually filed for insolvency. So we can see for events 1 to 3, there's small spikes in trading volume. And actually for the first event, we got a cumulative abnormal return of negative 0.3728. And for the second event, we got a CAR of 0.0099, which might be either because we used the mean adjusted model or because Wirecard's shareholders were speculating a lot on the stock. Now, the next CAR we got is very similar to the first one again. It's negative 0.3854. It also is in line with the logic. And then we can see in the fourth event, so when they filed for insolvency, we see a huge explosion in trading volume. And also the returns become extremely volatile. So first the returns decrease and go to the negative, but after some time they recover and go to positive, which might be interesting to look at because we think it could be because Wirecard's shareholders were also still, after filing for insolvency, actively speculating on the stock and thus inflating the returns.
So this was our presentation about the case study of Wirecard. We would like to thank you, and should you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. So thank you.